everyone, this is Kudzie Mapiye and welcome. On this channel, I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about burnout. Burnout in Australia. Burnout as a migrant living in Australia. Now, for all those people who might not know what burnout is, the best way that I can describe it is when you just can't anymore. Like, that is the best description for it. You just can't. You've got no energy emotionally, mentally, physically. You are just absolutely burnt out. And it's something that's so easy to happen for migrants living in Australia. And I wanted to just highlight a few things in this video for causes of burnout for migrants and some of the things that you can do to prevent burnout. And coming from someone who has experienced burnout in Australia before more than once, where I've just been like, you know, that feeling where you just can't even, like, you want to get out of bed and you just cannot, you just have no energy, you just feel absolutely spent. And there are like certain things, and two main things that I wanted to talk about in this video that cause burnout, and two things that you can do to prevent burnout. The first thing is just toxic situations and relationships. And this is mainly toxic workplaces, toxic work colleagues, toxic family members, toxic friends. So whatever it is for someone, it like dealing with people who are toxic is a full-time job. And if you have a life, like managing some relationships can just be too much for you physically, mentally, and emotionally, especially like, you know, emotionally and mentally. So you really have to be careful the kind of things or toxic situations that you're managing. For example, when I experienced burnout, I remember it was because of a toxic work situation. Like, just being at that time, I was in a very toxic team where the team dynamic was not positive, and you know, there was a lot of just some behaviors that were just, you know, really hard to deal with, really hard to wake up to every morning and have to face, like people who are not very nice, people not working in a collaborative way, people being racist, all those things, like all packaged in one. That is one sure way of getting burnt out, because we spend so much time at work, and if you're burnt out, if your work is burning you out already as you're working, and then you add the load of being in a toxic environment, that can just completely like annihilate you. Like, you would just be completely burnt out. You won't have any energy to do anything else that you love, anything else that's important to you, because you're just busy surviving and just trying to get to the next day and the next day and the next day. And you know, I've spoken about, you know, toxic situations before on my videos, but you know, just in relation to burning out, like in Australia, it's already very busy. Like, there's a lot, like live-in help is not affordable. So a lot of people do things by themselves. A lot of people clean their own houses, cook their own food, take care of their own kids. Like, a lot of things you have to do yourself, because like finding services or other people to do it can be very expensive. So add that on, it's already a recipe for burnout. But if you have other situations that you're dealing with, and then I know another thing that people deal with sometimes is toxic, like relatives, like people just being toxic. I've spoken about financial abuse, black tax. I've got a video about that. If you're interested to hear about that, I've got a video on it. And also like just toxic family dynamics. Doesn't even have to involve money. It just could be the way you relate as a family can be really toxic. And if you're in touch with your family a lot, like that impact can have a very negative like impact on you, like negative effect on you, and it can burn you out because you're so mentally exhausted from dealing with family problems. And it could be like the natural dynamic of your family is toxic, and sometimes it's not really toxic, but there is a very serious issue that is occurring maybe in your family that needs a lot of attention, and you're having to respond to many messages, many phone calls, and you just get physically burnt out from talking to different people about the same thing, and hearing different angles. Like if you're in part of any family, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that can be, and there are things that it's not always the case, but when things happen, sometimes you have to devote a lot of time and attention to a certain issue, and that can burn you out. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to highlight, to say to be mindful of and to prevent burnout is to manage toxic situations. And from work, I think the main causes of toxic situations are really like the workplace, family, and maybe relationships. Like if you're in a toxic relationship, that will really burn you out. Because imagine being in a toxic relationship with someone and you're living under the same roof, you're having to be with each other, see each other, and that just drains you and drains you and drains you until it just grinds you to a halt. So those are things to be mindful of, how you manage toxic situations. And for me, like I mentioned, I was in a very toxic team, and it really drained me and it really burnt me out, and I had no energy for anything else. Like I was just managing to just get by every day, but had no energy for anything else. And I realized the source of that burnout, and I just had to move to a different environment. I had to find a new job, find a new working environment where it wasn't as draining, because I knew that if I continued to be in that environment, like I was going to experience even worse outcomes for myself. So I said, you know what, I can no longer manage working in this environment because it just drains me so much. And I would get home and I would have zero energy to even take off my shoes after work. That's how, when you're so spent and you're so tired and you're so burnt out, you don't want to get to that stage. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is overcommitment. Like sometimes you can get overcommitted to different things, and some of the things that people can get overcommitted to, especially here in Australia, or if you're living overseas, like it could be faith-based. It could be to do with like a church, religious organization, like that requires you to spend a lot of time there, or to give a lot of yourself, to attend a lot of different meetings. Maybe the times are not very convenient. There are things that I have seen people getting really burnt out by. And just from observing and, being part of some of, the church-based stuff, at some point I could understand how it could be just so absolutely draining, especially if you like hold a leadership position in something, or you're leading something. It really is a job. Like it really is like a full-time job. So it's kind of like you're juggling two jobs at once. So you have to look at your capacity, look at what you are able to do, because sometimes it's not about like leaving your religion or not going to church. It's just about managing your commitments. How committed are you in other things? Like, is there something you can cut back on? Is there something that you can commit to at a later time? Maybe you're holding a leadership position and you think, you know what, I just really can't manage with everything else that's on my plate at the moment. Maybe I just need to put this on hold and just be a regular member. Stuff like that. Really manage your commitments. Overcommitting to like churches, religious organizations, and also overcommitting to friendships, like having many different friendships that you have to manage. And if you know anything about adult friendships, they are hard to manage. So if you have many different groups of people that you associate with and you have to keep in touch with, you have to catch up with, it can become draining over time. So you really have to see if you are overcommitted, and to say, you know what, see what is adding value and what is not adding value, and just manage it that way. Spend your time at the things that add value with the people that add value, and those that don't, just limit to as little time as possible, so that you can manage your energy levels, manage your your emotional energy, your physical energy, your mental energy. So it is something that can really, really burn people out. And then there are other activities as well, like just being overcommitted. One, being overcommitted financially. That is something that I find very common amongst migrants, is being overcommitted financially, where you are maybe taking care of people back home, you're taking care of your family here, and maybe you have a few loans going all at the same time, and you're financially overcommitted, and then you have very little disposable income. So what you then do is you compensate for that by working more, like you're getting more shifts, you're getting an extra job. So we're really spreading yourself out very thin, so that you can be in a position where you can manage your financial commitments. And a good way to just manage that is to look at your commitments, look at what is essential, what is not essential, get rid of what is not essential. Like, educate yourself on different debt management strategies, how to get rid of debt. Like, even when it comes to family commitments, know that you don't have to be involved with this to be the solution to everyone's problem, to be the financial solution to everyone's problem. Sometimes you really are concerned, and sometimes you can be there for someone in other ways that are not financial. And if they don't appreciate that, then that's them. But you can say, okay, if they don't appreciate it, you can just love from a distance. That is very possible. Love and support from a distance is actually a superpower. So yeah, really manage your commitments. Make sure you're not overcommitted, because overcommitment can lead to burn out. And once you burn out, you're not effective anymore. You're not able to work like you can, you should. You're not able to function. You're not able to just be the person that you want to be. So really managing burnout is something that is really, really important. And I really focused from the perspective of migrants, because I feel like as migrants, we have very unique challenges. We have very unique situations that might not be the case for other people. Not to say that people who are not migrants don't have their own struggles, but they might have, but I don't have a lived experience of those things. So the things that I see in my community are the things that I am more aware of and that I can speak on. So knowing the experiences of migrants in Australia, I know that burnout is very common. And people, when you burn out, when you're physically burnt out, emotionally burnt out, mentally burnt out, the next thing is that burnout is gonna physically manifest. You will physically get sick. I know for me, one telltale sign that I'm reaching the point of burnout is when I have consistent sore throats. That's just my thing, where if I start to get a sore throat, if I've had a cold, I don't get sore throats often. So I start to see that if I start getting them often, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I need to slow down. I need to look at what's on my plate. Am I able to manage? Have I spread myself too thin? And I start reevaluating things and say I need to manage things, because I have had situations where I've had a sore throat back to back to back to back to back, and I'm it seemed like I had one for months. But it was just something that was reoccurring, and I knew that it wasn't just because it's flu season or something like that. It was really because my whole system had shut down, and there was now starting to be a physical manifestation of the burnout. So that's one thing that can happen. And some things can be even more serious. They say that a lot of cancers are caused by stress. So a lot of diseases, a lot of things that start going wrong in the body, a lot of them can be caused by stress. So it's really important to manage your stress levels, make sure that you're maintaining good balance in your life and not getting burnt out. So I hope you can just re-evaluate, use this video as an opportunity to re-evaluate what you have going on and see if you're overcommitted, see if you've spread yourself thin, see if you have some toxic people, relationships that are just draining your energy, and see what you can let go of to get more healthy and to get more time and to get more energy back in your system. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.